Ryan Wolfert. Welcome to the DIY Detox Summit.
Oh, Bridget, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be awesome.
This is going to be awesome. So I'm just getting to know you for this first time. So I want to get to hear about your story a little bit. You know, you're a chiropractic physician. I know you have a specialty in brain health. And I guess just wonder, like, how'd you get into this area?
Oh, man, I don't even know where to start. Because it's obviously with all of our health journeys, it's been a progression. But most recently, I got more into brain health as it related to parents, and especially my wife, and seeing my parents or my grandparents go through health issues, brain issues, heart issues, and just realizing, so many times parents don't take care of themselves, and then it keeps repeating the cycle. So, for example, my parents taking care of their parents. And now I'm seeing a lot of my patients, they need help, but then also they're taking care of their parents, and they're breaking their brain and their body down. And then soon their kids are going to have to take care of them. And I just want to help parents. That's where Upgraded Parents came from. That's my website, upgradedparents.com. And just to help parents, especially moms and dads who are struggling with their energy, to help upgrade their brain, to increase their energy, to increase their performance, and also increase the longevity of their body and their brain. And this basically started with my wife because she was getting worn down. She's a doctor also.
Oh, okay.
And she would still get sleep, but still be exhausted. And long story short, just through a process of some trial and error, we found out that how the brain was affecting her health and her performance, and a lot through the detox and toxification portion of what was happening to the brain.
I like a few things you're saying there. One is like that emphasis on self-care. Like you can't just burn yourself out taking care of others. I think especially like this midlife age where you got kids and parents, it's like it is easy to burn things at both ends and feel like, well, I have to, like this is the way it has to be.
Yeah, and that's the way my wife felt, was she was just burning herself out. She was losing her energy. She felt guilty and frustrated because she thought guilty because she was losing her energy, frustrated because she felt like, and we both felt like she was doing everything healthy, those same things that we hear about, whole grains and, moderation, which, I don't want to get into moderation, but I was just thinking about that yesterday. What exactly is moderation?
I know. It's an excuse often.
Yes. Because I was just thinking, okay, if somebody says that, and I don't want to get confrontational, I say, all right, let's take pizza, for example. How often do you eat pizza? What is moderation? Okay, once every week or once every 2 weeks, let's say. Well, how about ice cream? Okay, once every 2 weeks. And you go through these 14 different foods. So if you're having each of these 14 different, processed type foods that is hurting your health once every 2 weeks, that basically means you're having something once a day that is causing inflammation in your body.
That's true.
So you can't take it just by the individual food, but what is actually in the food.
Okay.
That's the way my mind
is. No, I hear that all the time. And I know I've heard some study on the radio that like, if you ask parents, do you feed your kids well, they kind of say yes. But then if you actually journal like what you did, well, that night was soccer practice, so we picked up a pizza. Well, that night was whatever, so we had an ice cream party. And it's like so it's important. Another question I want to ask you from that intro was about brain performance. So when you say that, do you mean like clear thinking, quick recall, that kind of a thing?
Yes. It's not just surviving. It's actually making steps to perform every day. To, like you said, it's waking up refreshed. It's re-energized. You're rejuvenated. It's not just getting through the day. That where most parents, or I would say most, I don't want to speak for everybody, but just in my experience, that's where a lot of parents fall, is they're getting through the day. They're not able to perform the duties at a high level, or even, sometimes even an average level. So increasing that performance of being able to do that, like you said, through the clear thinking, getting rid of the brain fog, headaches, fatigue is a big one, tiredness. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And I want to I love that we're focusing on the brain, right? Because like even me in my schooling, like I didn't learn much about the brain. I don't know when you went to school and if you did or not, but I know you know it now. Like we don't think of it as an organ, right? We just are like, it's just we're supposed to. It's like our worker bee, like oh, like it should just do stuff for me, and I should think clearly, or I'm tired because I'm like overworked, or my brain isn't working because I'm getting old. People say that a lot, but like it's actually an organ, right? Like we have to take care of it, just like our liver. And I hear people say all the time, "I want to detox my liver." Who's saying detox my brain? Nobody. Except you, right?
Well, yes, exactly. And it's funny because we'll get into it, but we do have to detox those other things along with, or even before we can get to the brain, because of how it all works. But no, my co-creator and host, Dr. Isaac Jones, and I did this Superhuman Brain Masterclass, and that's during our first session. That's one of the things that we talked about. Was I said if our brains were on our face, people would take a lot better care of it because they could actually see it. Because think about, we take better care of our skin, which, that's a reflection of what our health is also, or take care of our teeth. Oh my gosh, we take such good care of our teeth, or get braces on it, drop of a hat, spend $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 on that because you can actually see it. So yes, I don't want it on my face, but just we'll bring awareness to the brain today.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know you mentioned inflammatory foods, so I'm sure those will come up. Mm-hmm. But like, can you tell us what is toxic for the brain? Like, what areas do you kind of focus on?
Well, food obviously is one of them, but it could come in all different areas. Could come through the air and pollution. Could come through, and I had an example of this. I actually walked behind my car today while it was running because I had to drop something off at school for one of my daughters. And I walked right through the exhaust. I'm like, oh, and I held my breath, which still, it gets on your skin. And you don't even think about that, but that's gas and methane and all this other stuff getting on you and getting in your lungs. So it could be through the air, on your skin with all the personal care products that we use, all the soaps. It could be in the kitchen, using plastics and heating that up. And now those BPAs and parabens get into your body. So it could, and you could feel the immediate effect of it, like similar to painting. You get a reaction to the paint, or even a marker. You might get a headache or dizzy or nauseous. But usually it's the accumulation of it. So the bioaccumulation of these toxins that they get stuck in the brain. But one of the big reasons for that is, you mentioned the liver. And the liver, the big part of what that does is it detoxifies, it metabolizes these toxins. But we're exposed to so many day after day after day, they basically get gunked up. The liver gets backed up. It can't process them. So what's it do? Your body shuttles it into the fat cells to protect you. So all these toxins that are toxic to the body, to protect you, to get out of the blood, but they can still find their way up, get into the bloodstream, into the brain, and break through the barrier, which we'll talk about there too. So some common, like I'll go through just some, like heavy metals is a big topic that I love to test for, because it can be like this silent inflammation maker. And like as far as the brain goes, anxiety, brain fog, those types of things, mercury, lead, aluminum, those are all neurophilic. So they're really attracted to the water in the brain and attaches to the nerve tissue in the brain. So it gunks that up, and now that gets clogged up, and now those nutrients and enzymes and vitamins that are needed for all the processes of the brain, it can't work. And then that's what causes the brain fog and the poor clarity and the poor memory. Now, if we go even into the energy production, because the mitochondria produce the energy, there's different ones like arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium. All of these basically poison these enzymes that poison the enzymes that transport the nutrients into the mitochondria, and then you can't make the energy.
Oh,
so those are some ways that toxins, and especially heavy metals, can and do affect the brain function.
Okay, and what is your favorite test type for heavy metals?
Good question. I love the hair elements test, like testing the hair, because it takes an average. There's also the urine, but that is more of a snapshot in time. So you might have to take some DMSA or something to get the toxins out of the body and into we say to like pee it out so you can
gotta
actually
be
see
excreting it. Yeah.
what's stored up. But I do like the hair test. We do a lot of that in our office.
That's great. Yeah, that's the one we use too, but I'm always curious because it's always a debate, right? Which test is best?
And, people will say, well, what about a blood test? Well, you're hopefully not, if you're already showing a lot of toxicities of these, especially heavy metals in the blood, you're in trouble because, it's toxic. And if it's in the blood, it might get absorbed into these tissues. That's going to break it down. And, it's rather than a slow process, it actually speeds it up.
Okay. So you mentioned the enzymes not getting blocked and you don't get the nutrients you need. And you kind of referred to leaky brain.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that issue?
Yes. And basically leaky brain, the listener, the viewer, they might have heard a lot about leaky gut. And I do think, leaky gut, leaky brain, because whatever gets into your bloodstream, it's going to get up to the brain. Now, the brain has this barrier around it to help prevent it from getting in. And it's even closer knit than down in your gut, in your intestines, in your stomach, in your lower gut there. What I think about with the gut, think about a shoelace. It's tightly, it should be like really tight, so only certain things can get through. But the toxins that we put in our body, either through food, through, again, what we breathe in, well, especially food, if we're talking about the gut, now it loosens up those shoelaces and stuff gets through, bigger molecules get through that shouldn't. So now it gets in the blood, goes up to the brain, and the brain it's even tighter shoelaces. So it's harder for it to get in. But if we're under constant barrage of these toxins, just try to get in, eventually they do, because it's not just an acute stress situation, it's a chronic stress and inflammation situation. So now whatever gets in your blood, it can get into your brain. Like I said, those heavy metals in effect and weaken the brain function, the brain energy, stop that. The brain performance goes down. You start, forgetting things. And what do you equate it to? Well, I'm just getting older.
Yeah, I need another cup of coffee.
Yes, I'm tired in the morning. I need another cup of coffee, and that cycle continues, and it's time to break that cycle.
Okay, so inflammatory foods can affect that brain barrier just like the gut barrier.
Exactly.
Okay. And do heavy metals irritate that too?
The gut, you mean? Or the
brain barrier?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the gasoline fumes too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so potentially all the bad things.
Yeah, it's
basically
right. It's so like the three main culprits, especially as it relates to food, are like gluten and wheat as inflammatory, sugar and dairy, just because of the processing that goes on in all of those.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are all triggers for me. And I'll just share a bit of my story because it's the brain putting some pieces together as you say this. Like when I was really sick with toxic mold, there would be, 15-day stretches. I'd have a headache because my brain was so under attack by all the inflammation in my body. And now I'm a lot better. But I noticed and it won't be every time, but if I eat something I shouldn't eat, I'm like, I'm at a party and I'm just going to have this one cheese cracker just because I'm feeling good and I'm here. Yeah. Sometimes I'll just be boom, right? 10 minutes right back to that headache. And, it'll last a while because my body's just sensitized to that type of thing now. And I suppose a lot of people are like that all the time to habits. I'm sure you eat well. And I mostly eat well too. But if I slip up, I can feel that in my brain, and mostly it's annoying because I have a headache and I kind of feel like, I shouldn't have bothered to do that. But now I feel like, wow, I'm really actually doing quite a disservice to my brain to add that, toxin in the form of food. So
exactly. That's what I think about when I want to reach for is is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to get a headache or to get a migraine because that's what I suffered with too, was migraine headaches and the aura. And it was almost the first one I had felt like a stroke because I got blurred vision. I got, numbness, tingling in my arm. I couldn't speak. And yes, is it worth it to do that? Now, sometimes, Like this last weekend, my wife and I have 3 girls, 15, 13, and 11 years old. And every President's Day, we go spend the night at a hotel. So we were swimming, in a chlorine-laden pool at a hotel. So that's a toxin right there. We're going to be exposed to toxins because of where we live, or, that's where the industrialized society. And I'm not saying we have to get rid of that, but we better have a plan in place to detox our body and brain in order for us to, still enjoy a high energy life.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the question, and I like say everybody has free will, so you might want to just be like, screw it, I'm having these cheese and crackers, but you might pay for it and it may pay for a while. So
understand there's consequences to it.
Right.
And not be like shocked that happened. We're like, oh, I can't believe I got a headache. Many people get shocked, like, what? How come that happened? For me, sometimes it doesn't show up till 2 days later.
True. There can be a delay too. And that's why often people who eat these kind of things chronically can't put 2 and 2 together. They think, well, it's just how I am, or it's just because I'm getting older. But when you clean out, which is we're going to move into detox next, when you clean out, then you realize, whoa, cheese and crackers don't really suit me very well. So let's talk about strategies. Maybe you can give us a big picture on your strategies to detox the brain.
Well, I love this because we actually have to start way down at the bottom of the funnel. So this is, the brain's the top of the funnel, and we have to clear out the pathways to get rid of the toxins, to get rid of the, the heavy metals, the parasites. Well, hopefully not parasites in the brain, but the infections that you might have in the brain that we got to drain out. Okay. So we have to start actually in the colon and the gut. We have to make sure that filter is, we're not constipated, that when we start detoxifying the brain and getting those things out that are toxic to the body, that it's not going to hurt us. We can actually get rid of them.
Okay.
So the colon is first, and it doesn't mean you're taking laxatives to clean yourself out, because that dehydrates you and gets rid of nutrients and gets rid of antioxidants and all these things that we actually want for health. I'm talking more about, and we touched on that, avoiding the wheat, the gluten, the dairy, because that binds you up. That can bind you up. And definitely getting enough water. Not enough people get enough water. Not only does it help our entire body, but your brain is 60 to 70% water, so it needs that hydration. So that's the first step, is starting in the colon, making sure that that's going to get rid of the toxins. So that's through the GI canal. Now we have to go to the next step, which is the liver and kidneys. The liver and kidneys is the detoxification system where the blood will take, whatever's in there to break down the toxins. And as we touched on before, if the liver is gunked up with all these toxins that we're putting in it, we have to clear that out in a safe way. So now the stuff that's coming out from the brain, or the toxins coming out from the brain, can be processed and broken down by the liver, and you can get rid of it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So the next one is the lymphatic system.
Okay.
So that's the lymphatic system basically follows along like right how the blood goes, but it has, blood vessels and nodes. And if anybody's familiar with, I'm sure everybody listening is familiar with cancer, is, they have to get lymph nodes removed, or that's where, because it's a waste management reservoir. So
true. Okay.
If that's not clean, then that waste is just going to add up in there. So we have to make sure that that's cleared out. And then we get into the glymphatic system, which is the brain drainage network it's the brain drainage network. So it's the lymphatic system around the brain. So it's really
love the word. I just have to say, I love the word glymphatic. I only learned about this about a year ago, and I was like, what? How did I not know about this?
Well, like you said, we have to, brain doesn't get the attention, and it's weird because it's the most important organ that we have. I know everybody's gut crazy now, which, hey, they go together. Like I said, we did the Superhuman Brain Masterclass. Superhuman gut will give you superhuman brain, and vice versa. They work together because they're very, very similar, and they communicate so much with each other, both with neurotransmitters, with hormones. So if we can touch on that a little bit too, how hormones just get dysregulated. Like I said, it's just this cycle of inflammation and stress that just keep adding up. And then it's not like most people don't feel it right away, whatever symptom it is. And that's the thing. It can be any symptom. It could be a neurological or cognitive disorder. It could be eczema or rash. It could be constipation. It's different for different people depending on what they might be predisposed to. What is their weak link? And that's what it's going to attack first. For me, it was, migraines and sinuses. So it was attacking, more up in this area first. For, people with, predisposition to Parkinson's or MS. I'm not saying it's genetic or fully genetic, but if you're predisposed to it, now we add these toxins that activate those genetic disease pathways, then it makes it more likelier that you would get those types of brain diseases or any of those diseases.
Okay. So the last step, so to speak, is this lymphatic system, which is the lymphatic system of the brain.
Yes.
And how do we help this lymphatic system out?
Well, it's going through that whole thing. Usually it takes some type of binders and chelators to attach, especially if it's heavy metals, to get it out of your body safely.
Okay.
The same thing that it's cool, it's awesome, because many of the same things that detoxify your body detoxify the brain. But we can go through one of the things that, especially with the stomach.
Okay.
So first, like ridding yourself of like the biotoxic overgrowth. So SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or these bacteria that aren't healthy, because you have a microbiome in your gut that actually provides health, helps you digest food, helps you process the food that you put into it. And with what we're eating and the toxins that we put in our body, whether it's, again, the gluten, the dairy, the sugars, even hydrogenated oils, which is another huge toxin.
Totally.
That goes with processed food, because if you look at a package of, anything, it might say canola oil or vegetable oil, cottonseed oil, or sunflower oil. All these are processed oils, which I like the word gunk. They gunk up the system because it gives an image where it just makes everything stagnant. So that's what the lymphatic and the glymphatic system, it just makes everything stagnant. It doesn't flow out of your body. As humans, our brains were not a stagnant structure, but yet we sit down too much nowadays. We behind our phones, behind our laptops, behind our iPads, and things just don't flow. So exercise obviously is another good one. I got off topic there. I'm sorry.
No.
Ridding yourself of the biotoxic overgrowth. So that the parasites, the fungus that reside in your body, we want to get rid of those. Next is correcting the micronutrient deficiencies. Because when we have these toxins, these heavy metals, parasites, unhealthy bacteria in our body, it depletes our body of nutrients, these micronutrients that help build health. And so when we do that, now we might get a symptom. And many, many people, especially in the US where we are, they go to get some sort of medication, or they go to their doctor and they are prescribed the medication. Over the last 20 years, the number of prescriptions filled in the US has increased by 85%. So it went from 2.4 million to over 4.4 million.
In one time period?
20 years.
Yeah.
And our population has only, sorry about that, has only increased 21%. So that's totally out of whack. And these medications that we're getting prescribed, they deplete the nutrients in our body as well.
Yeah, they're often toxic and they deplete nutrients.
So ways to get rid of that, I'll finish this point.
Okay. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Is nuts and seeds and leafy green vegetables. It's everything you've probably been told, when you were a kid. Eat your vegetables. Those are all good things to eat, organic when possible. But like I said, nuts and seeds, they're higher fat. So we've been trained, I think, over the last 20, 30, 40 years to not like fat. We want low fat. And that's still out there. The brain, again, it's about 70% fat. So we need the fat in order for it to function.
Yeah. And, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about this lymphatic system. And I heard something, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, that your brain shrinks like pretty dramatically when you sleep so that as the lymph is cleared. Is that correct?
Well, yes, because during sleep is when, you clear the lymphatic system. So that's where sleep comes in and why that's so important, because that's where you repair your body. That's where, memories are formed. That's where it's called like autophagy. That's where your brain can actually get rid of the debris that's building up, and it does that through the lymphatic system. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I was really curious about that. What else was I going to ask you? So all this stuff we're talking about, this is good for long-term health of the brain as well, preventing dementia and those kind of things that none of us really want to experience.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay,
dementia is the most common type of dementia is Alzheimer's. That's the one we tend to think about. They're not the same thing, but 60 to 80% of people who have dementia, it's Alzheimer's. But dementia, that's really the scariest one for me, just because I've seen it with family members. I've seen it with patients and them taking care of, again, their parents. And so that's my goal, is to take care of myself, my brain, my body, using, these pillars of health that I call them, or the family six-pack, which is food, fitness, function, which is my spine and posture, my refresh every day with sleep, my focus, which is my mindset, not believing that my body has to break down, that I'm getting old, that I'm getting frail, that's a normal part of life. And then the last part is faith, having faith in something bigger, having a bigger purpose. And all these things add up what I call the family six-pack. And by controlling those, I'll be able to prevent dementia. Making sure that, for example, foods to eat, more of a, more of a Mediterranean diet, nuts, seeds, legumes, pulses, beans, more high fat, coconut oils, wild caught fish, making sure I get my sleep. Those are all huge to prevent dementia.
Awesome. So Ryan, you mentioned your website in the beginning, Upgraded Parents. Is that your main site where people can learn more about you?
Yeah, upgradedparents.com.
Okay. And you sounds like you do private coaching, or
yes.
what's your...
Yes, I do one-on-one health coaching for the most part, and we take them through a process of revealing what is causing the dysfunction, whether it's the brain fog, whether it's low energy. Those are two big ones that I work with. So revealing the cause, healing what is causing that by removing any interferences, and then upgrading their life for the long term and longevity.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ryan, for coming on and giving some attention to our brains here. And we promise to take better care of them. I hope everybody got a few tips that they can start focusing on in their own lives. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.